The world doesn't play fair, and you've already seen it. You do the honest thing. Someone bends the rules and gets promoted. You sharpen your skills. Someone less qualified slides into the spot you earned. That's not a glitch. That's the board you're standing on. Now, most people either complain about the board or quit the game. A smaller group studies it, adapts, and survives. And the ones who survive? Over time, they rule. There's a kind of power that doesn't announce itself with volume or titles. You can't point to it, but you can feel it when it enters a room. Call it dark intelligence. It's born the day you stop letting betrayal, humiliation, and defeat define you and start using them as fuel. Dark intelligence listens more than it speaks, watches more than it reacts, and acts only when the odds are quietly stacked in its favor. While everyone else argues, you're gathering signal. While they get angry, you're running the math. While they drown in feelings, you're building a plan. Quick ground rule before we go deeper. This is for protection, not destruction. You do not weaponize this against innocent people. The purpose is to stop being easy to manipulate, so you can choose better outcomes for yourself and the people who count on you. If that's your posture, lean in. You're about to learn 8 psychological traits that pull you out of victim mode and into strategic leadership. Drop this in the comments to set your frame. I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Trait 1. Calculated opacity. You don't owe the world a full autobiography every time someone asks a question. Most people overshare because they confuse transparency with trust building. They believe explanations equal intimacy. What actually happens is the opposite. The more detail you give away, the easier you are to predict. And predictable people are easy to control. Calculated opacity is not lying. It's selective disclosure. It's showing the headline and holding the draft. In practice, that sounds like this. Someone asks, "What are you working on this weekend?" Most will default to a detailed itinerary that makes them forgettable. You can calmly say, "I've got something important to take care of," then change the subject. You weren't rude. You set a boundary. Now you're interesting. Curiosity leads to attention. Attention leads to respect, and respect converts to influence. Why this works? The human brain hates incomplete patterns. Leave a deliberate gap, and people lean in. They replay your words. They fill in blanks with their own imagination, often in ways that elevate you. The point isn't to be cryptic all the time. It's to control your narrative. Your information is currency. Spend it intentionally, not emotionally. Take this into your conversations and meetings. Answer precisely, not completely. Limit context. Speak in conclusions. Save process for people who've earned access. Over time, your words get heavier because they're rarer. You don't need to be mysterious to be powerful, but you do need to be selective to stay in control. Trait 2. Adaptive persona. You already shift tone with your grandmother, your boss, and your best friend. Adaptive persona makes that instinct deliberate. It's not being fake. It's being effective. The essence stays the same. The expression adapts. Think of water. It takes the shape of any container and remains water. Do that socially. With analytical people, bring data and structure. With emotional people, reflect feeling and meaning. With practical operators, talk utility and steps. With visionaries, zoom out and draw the horizon line. You're not changing your values. You're changing your interface so others can actually receive what you're saying. The mistake most people make is chasing a single, authentic presentation, as if authenticity means behaving identically in every room. Real authenticity is consistent principles with flexible delivery. Diamonds have many facets, and one core, be that. The warning label here is important. Never adapt so much you lose yourself. Your principles, your non-negotiables, your long game, those don't bend. Only your presentation does. Use this in negotiations, leadership, and relationships. Study the person across from you. How do they decide? What do they fear? What do they reward? Mirror the channel they naturally tune to, and doors open that brute force could never kick down. People feel seen, and when people feel seen, they move. Trait 3. The principle of detachment. Attachment is the invisible leash that drags smart people into dumb decisions. If someone can control you by threatening what you can't bear to lose, a job, a relationship, approval, they don't need to outsmart you. They just need to push the right button. Detachment isn't coldness. It's freedom. It says, I care, but I am not captive. Picture two people negotiating. Person A needs the deal. Their plans depend on it. Person B would like the deal, but has alternatives and the spine to walk away. Who has leverage? Always the one who can leave. Detachment clarifies thinking. When you're not desperate to be right, you can listen. When you're not starving for approval, you can tell the truth. When you're not terrified of being alone, you can choose better partners. Practice detachment in small reps. Don't chase every argument to the death. Let silence stand. Don't optimize your personality for universal likability. Optimize for respect. Don't marry a plan. Marry a mission. The paradox you'll discover is simple and brutal. The less you need, the more you can get. Because your choices stop coming from fear. Before we continue, 2 commitments make this work. First, patience. None of these traits are loud. They're compound interest. Second, ethics. Power without guardrails corrupts fast. You're building a shield, not a weapon. Use it to end manipulation, not to start it. If you're still with me, good. In the next part, we'll sharpen 2 ruthless skills most people confuse for passivity: silent leverage and psychological echo. How to move a room without raising your voice, and how to speak to what people really mean instead of what they said. Trait 4. Silent leverage. Most people assume influence is loud. They think power is barking orders, raising their voice, or flexing credentials. That's rookie energy. Real power moves in whispers. Silent leverage is the art of changing outcomes without direct force. Imagine this. You're in a conversation. Most people fear silence, so they rush to fill it. They reveal too much, over-explain, or fold under pressure. But when you get comfortable with silence, the dynamic shifts. You pause. You look. You let the silence breathe. Suddenly, your words carry 10 times the weight when they finally arrive. In negotiation, silent leverage is the strength of alternatives. You don't need to say, I'll walk away. People feel it in your posture. You know you have other options, and that quiet confidence changes their tone. In relationships, silent leverage looks like becoming indispensable, not by bragging, but by consistently adding value. You don't demand loyalty. People give it freely because they don't want to lose what you bring. At work, silent leverage is becoming the problem solver everyone turns to. You don't announce it, you prove it, until your name naturally becomes part of every solution. The key is patience. Silent leverage is delayed gratification. You plant seeds, nurture them, and let them grow until your presence itself reshapes the room. No threats, no begging, no forcing. Just quiet positioning until people start seeking your approval, your advice, your presence, without you ever demanding it. But here's the line you don't cross. Silent leverage is not manipulation for harm. The highest form of this power is guiding people toward outcomes that benefit them and you. It's about building trust, not exploiting weakness. Trait 5. Psychological echo. Everyone you meet is walking around with invisible scripts. unspoken fears, quiet desires, buried frustrations. Most people talk at others without ever hearing these deeper layers. But if you want real influence, you don't just listen to words. You listen to meaning. Psychological echo is reflecting back the core need behind someone's words. It makes people feel deeply understood, which builds trust and influence faster than any sales pitch. For example, someone says, "I hate my job." The average response, "Maybe you should look for a new one." Shallow. But listen deeper. Maybe what they mean is, "I feel unappreciated," or "I'm scared I'm wasting my potential." The psychological echo response might be, "Sounds like you're ready for something more challenging," or "It seems like you're craving recognition for your work." Now you're not just hearing, they feel seen. And when people feel seen, they naturally lean toward you. Here's the framework. Every person is silently asking 3 questions. Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you value me? If your words answer yes to those, you've built influence. Practical use. If someone complains about being overwhelmed, don't just nod. Reflect back their dedication or high standards. If someone vents frustration, reflect their desire for excellence. It transforms negativity into motivation because you've reframed their own narrative for them. This works everywhere. Sales, leadership, parenting, relationships. It's not deception, it's communication intelligence. You're showing someone their reflection, but in a way that highlights their strengths and clarifies their needs. The danger? Don't fake it. People smell insincerity. You must genuinely seek to understand before you echo back. When done authentically, this skill makes you magnetic. People will come to you not because you talk well, but because you listen well. Trait 6. Ambiguous morality. Now we step into the gray. Most people think of morality in simple black and white. Good versus bad. Right versus wrong. But real-world power often lives in shades of gray. Ambiguous morality doesn't mean abandoning principles. It means making pragmatic decisions when every option has a cost. Think of it this way. Sometimes doing the nice thing creates worse outcomes. Sometimes protecting people means making hard calls that look cruel in the short term. Leaders know this weight. You might need to cut one toxic team member to protect the rest. You might need to tell a painful truth instead of offering comforting lies. Ambiguous morality isn't selfishness. It's responsibility. It's asking, what action produces the best long-term outcome for the most people, even if it makes you unpopular? Machiavelli warned that love and fear rarely coexist. If forced to choose, being feared is safer. That doesn't mean cruelty. It means prioritizing effectiveness over appearances. The harsh reality is that moral purity can sometimes lead to collective harm. Here's how to apply this without losing yourself. Define your boundaries. What values will you never violate? What lines will you refuse to cross? Within those limits, allow yourself to be strategic, even if others misunderstand you. Remember, ambiguous morality isn't about being heartless. It's about being strong enough to choose results over optics when the situation demands it. Before we continue. At this point, you've seen how dark intelligence shapes 3 layers of power: silence, empathy, and gray zone decision-making. They sound different, but they connect. Silent leverage lets you move without noise. Psychological echo lets you connect without force. Ambiguous morality lets you decide without guilt traps. Next, we'll move into the final 2 traits: controlled exposure and outcome obsession. How to control what people know about you, and how to cut through the noise to focus only on results. These are the finishing weapons that turn cleverness into lasting dominance. Trait 7. Controlled exposure. In an age where people post every thought, every meal, every detail of their lives online, Oversharing has become the default. But influence doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the most deliberate. Controlled exposure means you reveal strategically. You choose what people know, when they know it, and how it frames their perception of you. Machiavelli once noted that people are easily deceived because they crave immediate gratification. Today, that shows up as constant self-disclosure. The smarter move? Withhold. Select. Time your reveals. Why does this work? Curiosity. The brain is addicted to filling gaps. When people don't have the full picture, they lean in. They replay conversations. They try to decode you. That curiosity gives you the upper hand. Think about the people you find most captivating. They don't dump their entire story in one sitting. They reveal in layers. They share just enough to keep you engaged, but never enough to be fully predictable. That isn't an accident. It's design. Here's how to use controlled exposure. Professionally, don't showcase every skill on day one. Reveal them over time. That way, people perceive you as consistently growing instead of peaking early. Socially, share your story gradually. A relationship is built like a book, chapter by chapter. When you give someone the entire plot on page 1, there's nothing left to discover. Negotiations. Don't disclose your priorities or limitations too quickly. Hold key information in reserve so you can use it when it matters most. Remember, once something is revealed, you can't take it back. So we're on the side of saying less. A skill revealed too early is unimpressive. The same skill revealed at the perfect moment makes you unforgettable. Controlled exposure isn't secrecy. It's pacing. It's not about withholding forever. It's about revealing in ways that strengthen connection while keeping leverage intact. Trait 8. Outcome obsession. This is the final trait, and it's the one that separates amateurs from professionals. Most people waste their lives trying to win arguments, look right, or get credit. Outcome-obsessed people skip the noise. They don't ask, "How do I look?" They ask, "What result do I want?" This shift is everything. In arguments, the goal isn't to be right. It's to achieve the result that matters. Maybe you want cooperation. Maybe behavior change. Maybe insight into the other person's thinking. Winning the debate doesn't always get you any of those. Sometimes proving someone wrong makes them dig in harder. The outcome-obsessed person chooses effectiveness over ego. In business, this means focusing on impact, not appearances. Projects are chosen for results, not for visibility. Work is measured by what moves the needle, not what fills the calendar. In relationships, it means prioritizing the health of the bond over the scoreboard of who's right. Outcome obsession produces what I call strategic laziness. These people often look like they're doing less because they cut the 80% of tasks that don't actually matter. They zero in on the 20% that delivers 80% of the results. That isn't laziness. It's efficiency weaponized. But there's a danger here. Outcome obsession without values turns into ruthlessness. That's not what we're aiming for. Build your outcomes within your ethics. Success that costs your integrity isn't success. It's erosion. Another key piece. Outcome-obsessed people are flexible. They marry their goals, not their methods. If one path fails, they adapt. If conditions change, they pivot. Their identity isn't tied to a single plan. It's tied to achieving results, whatever route that requires. Over time, this mindset gives you a reputation. People will recognize you as someone who doesn't just talk, someone who delivers. And opportunities flow to those who deliver. The unifying thread. By now, you've heard all 8 traits of dark intelligence. Calculated opacity, adaptive persona, detachment, silent leverage, psychological echo, ambiguous morality, controlled exposure, and outcome obsession. Together, they form a philosophy. Not about manipulation, not about cruelty, but about clarity, resilience, and strategic control. These are the differences between being a pawn in other people's games and becoming a player who moves with intent. But here's the catch. Knowledge without practice is dead weight. These traits only sharpen when used. The challenge: pick one trait, not all 8, just one that resonated most. For the next 7 days, make it a lens through which you see every conversation, every decision. If you choose detachment, notice where fear of loss drives your choices. If you choose calculated opacity, notice when you feel the urge to overshare. If you choose silent leverage, let pauses do the talking. Practice it. Track the difference. Watch how people respond. Watch how you feel when you're no longer reactive, but intentional. Before we move on. This is where people get tempted to misuse these ideas, to manipulate, to dominate, to cut corners. Resist that temptation. Dark intelligence isn't about making you a villain. It's about making you unmanipulatable. It's about protecting yourself in a world that constantly pressures you to hand over your agency. In the next section, we'll take all 8 lessons and stitch them into a larger vision. What it really means to hold this power responsibly, and how to live in a way that makes you both untouchable and valuable to those around you. The weight of power. Let's pause here. You now know the 8 traits. But what happens when you put them together? That's where the real transformation begins. One trait practiced in isolation can make you clever. 2 or 3 can make you hard to fool. But when you embody all 8, you move into a different category. Someone who shapes outcomes while others are still reacting. But with that transformation comes weight. Power without responsibility corrodes. So the question isn't just, how do I gain this edge? It's, how do I wield it without losing myself? Machiavelli himself warned that fear and love rarely coexist. But what he also knew, and what many forget, is that power only lasts when it is grounded in wisdom. Ruthlessness alone burns bridges. Naivety alone builds chains. Dark intelligence is about balance, protecting yourself without becoming a predator, reading human nature without despising it, playing the game without losing your soul. Why responsibility matters. Look around. The world is full of manipulators, people who abuse influence, twist truth, and exploit trust. That's not who you're becoming. You're learning these skills to spot those games and stay 3 steps ahead. You're learning them so betrayal doesn't break you, so humiliation doesn't define you, so loss doesn't own you. Used well, these traits let you create better outcomes, not just for you, but for the people who orbit your life. Imagine being the one person in your family, your team, your circle of friends who can't be guilt-tripped, baited, or emotionally hijacked. Imagine how much safer others feel around you when you can calmly cut through manipulation. That's value. That's leadership. Practical integration. So how do you put this into motion without drowning in theory? Let's map it out. Start with calculated opacity. This week, practice answering questions with precision instead of full transparency. Notice how much freer you feel when you don't overshare. Layer in adaptive persona. Before each conversation, pause and ask, who is this person? Analytical, emotional, practical, visionary? Shape your communication accordingly. Build detachment. Pick one area where you know fear of loss drives your behavior. Practice loosening that grip. Remind yourself, if you can walk away, you're free. Add silent leverage. Get comfortable with silence. Next time someone asks a question, wait 3 seconds before responding. Watch how the pause shifts the power. Practice psychological echo. In your conversations, Listen for meaning behind words. Reflect back not just what they said, but what they meant. Watch the connection deepen. Navigate with ambiguous morality. When faced with a tough choice, ask, what creates the best long-term outcome for the most people? Be willing to look harsh in the short term if it protects the greater good. Apply controlled exposure. Audit your social media, your conversations, your work environment. Where are you revealing too much too soon? Tighten your disclosures. Anchor an outcome obsession. When conflict arises, ask, what result am I aiming for? Let go of ego battles. Focus on wins that matter. Don't attempt to master all 8 overnight. Instead, rotate. Each week, pick one to emphasize. Over time, they weave together into a second skin. No longer strategies you force, but instincts you live. The ethical shield. Here's the truth. Dark intelligence can be dangerous in the wrong hands. That's why your foundation matters. Write down your non-negotiables, the lines you won't cross, the values you won't betray, the outcomes you're willing to take responsibility for. Those boundaries protect you from turning into the very kind of person you're learning to defend against. Think of it like a sword. In untrained hands, it's reckless. In trained hands, it's precise. In wise hands, it's protective. Your goal is to become the one who carries the sword, but doesn't need to swing it often. The kind of presence that prevents conflict simply by existing. The ripple effect. As you integrate these lessons, people will notice. They'll sense you're not easily rattled. They'll respect your boundaries even if they can't explain why. They'll treat your words with more weight because you don't waste them. And quietly, you'll find yourself moving into a position of influence. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. But here's the bigger ripple. When you embody these traits, you raise the bar for everyone around you. Others will learn to hold themselves with more self-respect. They'll borrow strength from your example. They'll see that it's possible to move through the world strategically and ethically. Before we close in. And we've now sketched the philosophy and the practice. The last step is the choice. Who do you want to become? The pawn who reacts, or the player who directs? The victim who complains about unfairness, or the strategist who uses unfairness as fuel? In the final section, we'll lock this in. We'll talk about what it means to embody this long-term, how to live as someone who can't be manipulated, who commands respect without demanding it, and who uses intelligence not just to protect themselves, but to make life better for those within their reach. The long game of dark intelligence. Everything we've covered, opacity, adaptability, detachment, silence, echo, morality, exposure, and obsession, adds up to one thing: a way of being. Not just tactics for today, but a posture for life. You don't pick these up for a weekend, then drop them when things get easy. You internalize them until they're your reflexes, until your very presence communicates. I see the game, and I can't be played. Most people live on emotional autopilot. They overshare because they crave validation. They cling because they fear loss. They shout because silence makes them insecure. They chase appearances because outcomes feel too far away. They are easy marks, not because they're stupid, but because they're untrained. Your training, that alone sets you apart. The dangerous person versus the valuable person. There's a difference between being dangerous and being valuable. A dangerous person has nothing to lose. They act recklessly, sometimes destructively. That kind of danger can intimidate, but it rarely lasts. The valuable person, however, is different. They are dangerous in the sense that they cannot be cornered, bribed, or manipulated. But they're valuable because they channel that strength toward outcomes that elevate everyone. They aren't reckless. They're strategic. They aren't cold. They're principled. They aren't easily controlled, and that makes them magnetic. That's the aim here. Not to burn bridges, but to become the person others want to align with because they sense your clarity, your calm, your competence. Your 7-day trial. Here's the challenge. Knowledge without application is useless. Pick one trait, the one that hit you hardest. Maybe it's detachment because you've been afraid to lose. Maybe it's calculated opacity because you talk too much. Maybe it's outcome obsession because you get stuck in ego battles. For 7 days, focus only on that one. Don't try to juggle all 8. Notice when your old habits try to pull you back. Notice how people react when you change the script. Write down what you see. After a week, add another trait. Stack them slowly until they become part of you. Living the ethic dark intelligence is a weapon, yes. But weapons can defend as well as destroy. The ethic is simple. Use these skills to protect, not exploit. Use them to end manipulation, not initiate it. Use them to create clarity where others sow confusion. If you hold to that standard, you won't just become more powerful, you'll become more trustworthy. The world doesn't need more manipulators. It needs more people who can't be manipulated. People who see through the games, refuse the traps, and stand firm in their own values. That's who you're becoming. The reputation you build. Imagine this reputation following your name, the one who never overshares, but always speaks with weight, the one who adapts seamlessly to any room, yet never loses their principles, the one who can walk away from anything and therefore commands respect in everything, the one who listens so deeply people feel understood for the first time, the one who makes hard decisions, but for the right reasons, the one who reveals just enough at just the right time, the one who doesn't argue to be right, but moves mountains to get results. That's the reputation of someone untouchable, someone who others seek out, not because they demand it, but because they embody it, the final choice. At the end of the day, you have 2 options. Remain in the crowd, reacting to the unfairness of life, hoping honesty alone will protect you. Or step forward into this darker, sharper intelligence, using it as armor, not as a weapon, so you can move freely, think clearly, and shape outcomes instead of being shaped by them. The most dangerous person in any room is the one with nothing to lose. But the most valuable person is the one with nothing to fear and everything to give. So the choice is yours. Which one do you want to be? If this reshaped the way you see power, drop a like, subscribe for more, and comment this to lock it in. I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Until next time, stay sharp, stay ethical, and stay powerful.